Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you for a 500th time that Magnus Carlsen has done it again. Even when he shows up to a tournament, he's barely played chess the entire year. We're wondering which of 5 or 6 teenagers is going to overtake him. We are wondering when he will retire completely. Will he ever play classical chess again? He wins another tournament. And he does it so effortlessly. And I'll be breaking down some of his games for you today. This is the final day of action at the tournament in Kolkata in India, the Tata Steel Rapid and Blitz. He won the Rapid already, undefeated. First day of Blitz, he leads with one disastrous game that he lost. Today, he is trying to avenge himself. Or, this already happened, but you get my point. Let's jump into the games. He has to play 9 games against all 9 players, a bunch of very, very strong players from India. Also, Daniil Dubov, for example, is there, who is not from India. Wesley So, Vincent Keimer. And, yeah, he's just finding new ways of getting it done. A friendly 10-second sponsor shout-out, because I will be telling you this the entire holiday season, so you don't miss out. GothamChess chessboard, restocking in Walmart. I have been informed the GothamChess chessboard should come out on Amazon in December. So, do with that what you will. And Chessly 2.0, listen up. If you ever got a course on Chessly, my educational platform, you ever bought one of my courses, you will receive an email in the next 2 weeks giving you more information about Chessly 2.0. So just check your email, all right? Cool. Here we go. Got 4 games for you. Got a game against SL Narayanan. Got a game against Daniil Dubov. Got a game, the revenge game against Arjun Erigaisi. And the final game of the tournament against Vidit Gujarati. Here we go. Game number 1, Magnus with the black pieces. We will try to follow along and learn as best as we can. Magnus played e4, e5 against SL Narayanan before. He played it against him in the Rapid. It was a Spanish. This time, Narayanan does not want to go into a Spanish. He tries to play the 4 knights. This is what you play when you want to kind of provoke the opponent. You kind of want to play a little bit more boring. You kind of want to play a little bit more solid. So d4, pawn takes, knight takes, and bishop to b4. White goes bishop d3. Now, the system here for black is to play d5, and after like 10 to 15 moves, the game ends in a draw about 95% of the time. Magnus wants to win. He plays d6. And then he plays h6. And you will notice that the evaluation has ballooned. It's ballooned. From 0.2, 0.1 to 0.7. Why? These are not the best moves. Black needs to be active. Black needs to castle. Black needs to not play these kind of moves. But what you're doing here is you're going like this. You're setting up the Philly shell in boxing. And you're ready for the opponent to come at you so you can counterpunch. But you are not being the aggressor. Narayanan plays bishop d2 and tries to grab this bishop. Magnus backs out of the position. But he knows that knight a4 is coming. And he's probably going to have to give up the bishop. But at least he improves his pawns, right? He gets the Tetris formation. White plays rook e1. But now the position is imbalanced, okay? What do you do in a position like this? Well, every single move you're looking, how do I improve my pieces and how do I improve my pawns? Am I going for pawn play with d5 or c5 or b5? b5 is not a good move, but am I looking to develop my bishop? Magnus plays knight g4. This has 2 ideas. Number 1, queen h4 is a lethal punch, right? Simply wins the game. Number 2, you want to put the knight on e5 and you want to grab the bishop. Now here, Narayanan gives up the light squared bishop. So he creates this opposite colored bishop scenario, and he has ideas like this in the future. I understand that the queen is hanging. I see that, don't worry. But that's sort of the long-term vision. Magnus now uses pawn play. He improves the position of the c-pawn to be well supported and fight for the center. White goes bishop c3, and now Magnus goes d5. So he's trying to open up the position quite a lot. The problem with doing this is that now white damages these pawns, and when this trade happens, these pawns are just simply bad, but the trade-off is that those pawns are simply bad. But the trade-off of all of this is that opposite colored bishops. It's going to be really difficult to win this game with black. Gonna be really hard to do, you know? Not only that, white has this A pawn, right? So the pawn is marching. The pawn is just standing on the outskirts of the board. The more pieces that get traded, like if you remove the queens, bishop, and rook, this pawn just promotes. So black has some defensive responsibility as it pertains to that pawn, and the pawn's now on a5. It's 3 squares away from becoming a queen. Resources are going to get drawn to the attention of that pawn. Magnus takes on d5. White plays rook e1, queen d6, and king h2. I mean, I don't know how on earth you're supposed to win this position with black. You have no mobility. Magnus plays rook d8 going for the pawn. White defends it. How does black do anything? How does black do anything here? Bishop a6. f5. Now he's trying to trade the queens. Magnus wins a pawn. Queen d6, rook d6, g4. You could have also gone rook e7 and tried to get these pawns because, again, this pawn is worth 2 pawns. The white pawn is the best pawn on the board. It's not close. So g4, Magnus goes rook d7, and he is up a pawn, but, I mean, how is he going to, like, yeah, white just totally locks him down here, and now it's just an endgame, and this is just a draw. There's no fork. You'll just block. The white pawn is a menace. Magnus is trying, and now he broke through, actually. So right here, this bishop probably should have stayed there because the rook wouldn't have been able to get to b4, but it does get to b4, and suddenly things are falling, but it's still a draw. All the pawns are gone. And the crazy part is, this endgame is still maybe salvageable, but not if you hang your bishop. Not if you hang your bishop. Magnus wins an endgame. This is really what we call the Magnus squeezing water out of a stone. I can imagine him, you know, standing along the outskirts of a Norwegian fjord, just grabbing rocks and squeezing them. Yeah, I mean, like, winning positions like this is ridiculous, but it's what he does. It's what he does all the time, creating some practical difficulties, and then ultimately getting it done. I mean, it's really quite impressive. So, the next, let me check. Magnus proceeded to draw the next 5 games that he played. So he made 5 draws. He stayed at the top of the leaderboard, but he was chilling. He was trying to win, but he couldn't. He has to end the tournament strong. He's playing Daniil Dubov, who is 2,800 Blitz. Daniil Dubov is like a top 7 player in the world in Blitz. I will check the exact number now. But yeah, I mean, he is a Blitz monster. Yeah, Dubov is the... Okay, before this tournament, he was the number 4 ranked player in the world in Blitz. Number 4. Yeah, Dubov is a beast. So, Spanish. And watch how Magnus ends this tournament, because again, he needs to get revenge on Erigaisi. He lost to Erigaisi yesterday. And he ends the game, he has to end the tournament with a game against Vidit. Let's see how he does against Dubov. This game is bananas. We have a mainline Spanish. Riveting chess commentary. In the Spanish, you're supposed to go c3, d4. Or you're supposed to play d3 first. But knight c3 is a rare move, all right? And you kind of realize, like, why is the knight there? Like, that's not where the knight belongs. But now instead of a3, Magnus plays a4. Now, if you look at the database, this position has been reached quite a few times. And a3 is the system. It's called the a3, d3 Spanish. It's been played many times. The point is that white just tries to go for d5. You know, you try to play bishop g5, you try to take the knight, you try to put the knight on d5. But a4 is a move. Okay, fine. Rook b8, takes. Magnus plays h3, Dubov plays h6. Dubov just also making, you know, improving moves, waiting. Rook e1. Dubov plays rook e8. Dubov just mimicking. He's like, hey, if the best player in the world is playing these moves, I can play them too. Knight e2. Now we are entering the deep territory of the ideas. We're trying to put the knight on g3. Very common in Spanishes and Italians. The reroute. Bishop f8. Knight g3. Knights are hanging out together. Maybe you're going to play c3, d4 now. Maybe you're going to play c4. Maybe you're going to start an attack with knight h2 or knight h4 going forward. I don't know. Bishop e6. Okay, we have c3. Defending the queen, the bishop with the queen, and d4 ideas. Bishop b3, queen b3, and d5. And Dubov clearly understanding the position very well. Rook on e8, rook on b8 behind the pawns, and d5 is on the way. The bishop was tucked to f8 because it controls the diagonal, but also the rook now protects the center. Very good play from Dubov. Bishop e3, queen d7, high understanding the position. Here comes Magnus. Rook a6. Remember, we're in the last 3 rounds of the tournament. Magnus has to get a couple of wins. It's going to be the only way to win. So rook a6. win the tournament. Winning does not win you. Winning does not win. What I meant is obviously scoring points in the tournament. Dubov plays rook e6. If there is a guy who loves chess just enough to get into a nasty fight with Magnus in a game, it's Dubov. He always is interested in a battle. Rook a e1, rook ea1, taking control of the file. Now here comes b4. Obviously, there's a queen here, right? It's supported by the pawn, the bishop, the knight. We have c4, and now Dubov locks the center. This is very, very important because if you lock the center, the dynamics of the position change. Now white struggles to do anything in the middle of the board. And as long as this doesn't ever work, it's going to be carte blanche for black. He is going to play g6, etc. Attack. Queen e8. Queen a4, g6. Now, Magnus is winning here if he plays knight f5, which is a move that g6 literally prevented. No, in fact, it allowed it and made it worse because this is hanging. If you take, pawn takes, and if rook d6, c5, and the rook has to part ways with the 6th rank. So knight f5 here would have been lethal. I think Magnus probably saw king h7 and was like, I don't see what my knight is doing. Yeah, then you just go g4, you just keep going. You just keep going. Instead, he goes knight e2, which gives Dubov a little bit of time to reroute, knight c1, and here comes f5. Dubov, a principled man, counter-attacking with 1 minute remaining on the clock. The engine doesn't love it. Human beings are not computers. The computer will know the best move in 3 seconds. A human can think about a position for an hour and be wrong. Magnus, pawn takes f5. Pawn takes f5, and puts the knight on b3. Now black can't play e4, because the knight is going to take. Magnus has done a very nice job here. In the process of Dubov trying to create an attack, he's weakening his position. So Magnus is going to try to trade a knight, maybe a queen, maybe a rook, open up the position and infiltrate. But rook d8. Now Magnus switches the play, but that was wrong. That was wrong because rook d8 defends this. He's trying to go e4. The move white needed to play here was to follow up on knight b3 and play knight a5. And this takes the sting out of the position. Knight takes, trade this, take on a5. e4 looks appetizing, but queen c7 is lethal with check incoming. Rook d7, queen g3, or even queen e5, trading some pieces. That was a hard sequence. I mean, there's a lot of pieces tangling. You go rook e1, suddenly Dubov's attack is working. And Magnus is on the ropes. Here Magnus plays a crazy move. Absolutely crazy. I couldn't believe he played this move, actually. The trick here is bishop f4. His point is that if you take my knight, I take the rook, and then I take the knight. Right? So I'm fine. Everything's good. We're trading. But he spent a long time, right, putting all of this together. Well, maybe not such a long time, but that was obviously what he was trying to accomplish. Bishop f4. Pawn takes. Rook e6. Queen e6. Queen c6. And now, Dubov, who just burned all his time, from 59 seconds, he plays rook d8, e4, and Dubov is winning, but he has only 7 seconds to find the move, and the move is heinous. Queen e1, king h2, there's nothing. Dubov had to find his inner Gotham and play rook to d6. The idea of rook to d6 is you skewer the queen and the rook, and if bishop takes, now you have queen e1, king h2, and bishop takes d6, and white loses. Just gets absolutely brutalized. You have to sack the queen, and then you will lose. Rook d6 is crazy. Magnus is losing, but Dubov only has 7 seconds, and he plays queen e1, and then he takes, and now Magnus has mate with queen e6. He doesn't go for this because he sees that his own king is in danger. Queen e6 is mate on the board. Queen e6, king h8, bishop e5, bishop g7, take, queen e7, king h8, queen d8, king g7, queen e7, king g8, rook a8, knight f8, and rook f8. Magnus had a way to just weed whack the whole position. You know, weed whackers? That was my weed whacker impression. Instead, he takes the pawn. So instead, he's like, you know what? I'm not going to get mated. We're going to win an endgame. Magnus just wants to play an endgame. That's it. He has mate on the board, but he wants to win the endgame instead. And he does. He just wins literally all of Dubov's pawns. This is like bowling. He takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns. Like that. Just. He's got one more to take. I don't know if he's going to get it. Oh, I think he is. Check. Knight of. Oh, maybe not. Nope. Yeah, instead he just promotes his own pawn while stopping Dubov's. We get into a scramble, like always in these blitz games. They're kind of crazy. Knight d6, h4. And, like, yeah, this game was nuts. Dubov won a couple of pawns, and now it's a draw. Now it's a draw. If Dubov plays bishop takes f4 for reasons I can't fully explain to you. But he goes here, and, yeah, Magnus picks up the knight, gets back, and finally wins the final pawn. And this is a winning endgame. This is a winning endgame because the f and h pawns are actually a draw. It's a drawn rook endgame, but not when the king is this advanced. When the king is this advanced, what ends up happening is you kick the king out, and then you are able to promote your pawn. So, if you have short side defense defending against the king and pawn, maybe you can defend, but not here because king e8 and this. And Magnus wins. Crazy game. Crazy game. Stressful game, you know, but Magnus always seemed to be in control. But hey, rook d6 would have been crazy. Absolutely crazy. And if Dubov had maybe 10 more seconds, he could have at least conceptualized the defense. I don't know about finding rook d6, but conceptualized it. Magnus wins. And now he's got to take on his toughest challenge, the one man that defeated him so far in India, Arjun Erigaisi. Here we go. d4. This time, Arjun plays d4. They had 2 games where they both played the Sicilian, and they both actually played the Taimanov. This time, we have a Queen's Gambit declined. Bishop g5. And Magnus plays c6, e3, and now bishop f5. Okay, bishop f5. Queen f3 is the main move here. But Arjun plays knight e2, which is, I don't know, I've never really seen that before. Bishop d6, and now queen f3. Okay. I've never seen it played like this, and clearly, you know, based on the evaluation, I don't think that this is the right way to play the Queen's Gambit decline. Black has all the pieces out. Knight f5, take. And Magnus here can be aggressive. He can go for queen a5 stuff, but instead he plays h6 and g6. Okay? Kicks out the queen, plays here, kicks out the bishop, trades the bishop, and goes for this position. So, long castle, probably expecting a mutual long castle, or at least a short castle. Yeah, Arjun plays rook b1. You don't need to invite Arjun Erigaisi 2 times to hang out. Like, that man is ready, all right? That man, he has a social battery for the ages. He's gonna go full b4, a4, and attack. It's called minority attack. All right? That sounds funny, but no, it's because you have a pawn minority. You have these 3 and these 4, so you have a minority of pawns, and you're trying to attack. King b8, b4. I mean, like I said, he doesn't need a second invitation, man. He really doesn't, and this is quite dangerous now. Magnus attacks on the other side of the board, and also make sure that he can move his rook now the knight is protecting. Arjun plays knight a4. Arjun's going here, c5, maybe b5. Magnus now should probably counterattack in the middle, but there's nothing wrong with rook c8. Knight c5, rook c7 is a little bit cramped. And here comes Arjun with a4. Arjun just making easy improvements. Magnus plays h4. Arjun plays a5. I gotta tell you, somebody's attack looks a little bit scarier. This is headed at a king. Magnus is attacking an open field where some horses are roaming. I mean, there's no king there. At the end of the day, the white king is here. So Magnus plays queen f8, but suddenly Arjun pokes at the attack, and he's arrived. He's arrived. a6. Magnus is still at least 3 or 4 moves away. He plays b6. Arjun takes. Knight takes. And now, the hard part. And here, the engine is giving plus 1.3, but it's giving plus 1.3 because the queen needs to go there, and only there. And then the white king goes to e2. I'm not even joking. The best move here for white is queen d1. No human on the planet plays queen d1. Queen e2 at least makes sense. But queen d1 but with that idea to move the queen, Arjun plays here. Magnus plays knight f6 and now f3. This is much more human, but the problem with f3 is it's just too weakening. f3 is trying to stop the knight from invading, but it weakens too much stuff. And now Magnus has his own targets. He's got his own targets. Arjun plays bishop h3, but it feels like he's going wrong. It feels like now Magnus is taking over the game. He used all of Arjun's momentum against him. Rook b3, knight e8, the best move. Moving the knight out of the territory, into d6, into c4. Arjun now says, all right, we got to go to an endgame. We got to go to an endgame. But you're going to an endgame against the freaking GOAT. And he is not very happy that you beat him yesterday. And he's not very happy with how many pawns you've put forward. Here, Arjun plays back. Magnus plays b5. And now Arjun does something I don't really get, to be honest with you. He should have just defended his pawn. I think what he didn't like about this is maybe he didn't like how passive his rook becomes. But the alternative is to get into a race with Magnus. And you're just going to start losing pawns. I think Arjun thought he was fine here. He's not, though. And with 5 seconds on the clock, he ends up in an endgame where it's 2-0. Absolutely nobody is stopping those pawns. And 2 moves later, he simply resigns. Because you can't stop the pawns. You just cannot stop them. Black has you totally dominated. And in a span of like 7 to 8 moves, from when Queen f5 happened, Arjun took Magnus to an endgame, and he resigned 10 moves later. I mean, this man is on another level, all right? On another level completely. But it's just crazy because Arjun had all of the momentum, all of it. He was playing very well. And Magnus, just like it's, you know, just like in judo. Person's coming at you, you bend your knees, you catch them, they're on the ground, all right? I mean, it's like, it's very impressive. Now, what's funny is by winning this game and winning the previous game, Magnus already won the tournament. He won both tournaments a round early, but he had a final round game against Vidit. And when you win the tournament before the final round, let me tell you something. It is so hard to show up to the final round. It's so hard. Not just show up, but I mean, to play a good game. But Magnus gets into a nasty little, I mean, he plays like the strangest opening by white, right? But it's all good. It's in English. It's very dynamic. I mean, don't play like this at home or online. Vidit doing a very nice job here, kind of trying to refute the position, but he gets a little bit, he gets things kind of wrong. He should have went backwards. He goes forward. Magnus takes a pawn. And now I just want you to pay attention. Opposite side castling, right? So these files are going to be utilized for attacks. Watch how Magnus just, like a little puzzle, just puts everything in the right place. Watch this. Queen, rook c1, obviously. Right? Vidit creates an attack of his own. Magnus goes bishop h2 because Vidit has to spend time opening the position. He goes here. Chess is a simple game. Queen up 1 square. Rook b1 and just absolute cannons pointed at this position. And Black is just not going to be able to survive this. He tries to play f4. Rook b1. Knight back to d6. Position looks very well protected. Yeah, the problem is you got into a mess over here because now I just start taking. And I take. And I take. And now you are down 2 pawns. Your attack is gone. All my pieces are active. It's just a matter of time. Magnus ends his run in India by sacrificing the rook. Rook takes c6. And you cannot take because queen b8 is mate, but I don't really care if you take because then, you know, I'm going to take your knight or the pawn. I mean, he's up 7 points of material and Vidit just resigns. There's not much you can do here. Rook g5 blunders everything. It blunders the rook and the rook. So a very, very nice win. And Magnus ends the blitz with 13 out of 18 points. He won, I think, 5 games on the first day. Or 4. And then 4 games on the second day, as you see here. All the games that I showed you. He played 18 games of blitz. He played 9 games of rapid. He lost once. And the craziest part is the game that he lost was absurd. Like, it was the worst game. I think somebody in the comment section wrote about this. This is the most amount of material Magnus has ever been down in 20 moves in his life. He quite literally played the worst game of his life. To lose against Arjun in the first game, and then he didn't lose again. So except for one game where he had an oversight and it just so happened to, you know, totally spin out of control. Yeah, dude showed up. He scored 13 out of 18 in blitz. Listen to this. He scored 13 out of 18 in the blitz. He won One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. He lost 1. And he lost 3 rating points. It's tough being the GOAT, man. 10 tournament wins this year. His next tournament, he's playing something in Singapore before the World Championship. I think he and Fabiano Caruana are playing this Fischer Random Chess 960 freestyle chess, whatever it's called at this point. And then he's going to play the Champions Tour finale in December. We'll see if he's able to win that. Then he has the World Rapid and Blitz in December in New York City. My house. That's all I have for you today. Check out the chessboard. Walmart, Amazon, etc. over the next few weeks. Chess League 2.0 is dropping. And you know what? While we're here, and you can timestamp this in the comments if you heard me say this. Sneak peek. Gotham is going on tour. The deal's not done yet, but I will be doing roughly 8 shows in May of 2025. I don't think I've said this anywhere publicly, but because you watch till the very end, you get a little sneak peek. Here are the cities. Hamburg, probably Berlin and Munich, probably. Brussels, maybe Paris, and London. And Vienna, Austria. Gotham on tour with some special guests in those cities. Now you know. Keep an eye out, keep an ear out. I will be announcing some more. Get out of here.